Sergeant Marcus Hale was not a man who smiled often. Years of war had taken that from him, along with friends, sleep, and the easy laughter he once had. His job now was simple: obey orders, follow protocol, and keep breathing. That was all he expected from life anymore. So when he was suddenly assigned to guard duty at the Varelian embassy, he thought it would be an easy post. No gunfire, no chaos, just a royal alien princess who probably stayed in her room all day surrounded by servants. He didn't even bother asking why they chose him, a battle-worn soldier, for such a soft job. But he would soon learn that nothing about this assignment would be simple. The Varelians were unlike any species Marcus had seen before. Their skin shimmered faintly under light, like silver dust over soft pearl. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dark, alive with color that changed with emotion. They moved gracefully, spoke gently, and seemed too fragile for a world that knew war. And Princess Lyra Varelia, daughter of the High Empress, was the rarest of them all. She was not just a royal. She was the symbol of peace between humans and her people. The alliance treaty depended on her safety, her public appearances, and her image of trust. If anything happened to her, war would rise again. That was why Marcus had been chosen, a human soldier known for being dependable, silent, and unshakable. They didn't want someone friendly. They wanted someone who wouldn't talk too much, someone who wouldn't ask questions. When Marcus first saw her, he almost forgot how to breathe. She stood in the center of the glass chamber, sunlight pouring over her silver-white hair. Her long gown glimmered faintly with patterns that shifted like stars. But what struck him most were her eyes, glowing blue with sadness, like she was smiling for everyone except herself. She looked at him with quiet curiosity, her voice gentle as wind. "You are my new guard?" Marcus straightened. "Yes, Your Highness. Sergeant Marcus Hale of the Human Defense Force." "Do you enjoy guarding people, Sergeant Hale?" she asked softly. He blinked. "I follow orders, ma'am." Her lips curved into a small, knowing smile. "Then you must be very good at it." And just like that, she turned away, leaving him confused by the odd warmth in her tone. The next few days passed without incident. Marcus stood outside her chamber for hours each day. The air was always clean, the halls silent except for the soft hum of energy panels. The princess rarely came out. When she did, it was to attend diplomatic meetings or ceremonial dinners, always surrounded by advisors and attendants. To Marcus, she seemed distant, untouchable, like a star he could see but never reach, until the third night. That night, everything changed. Marcus was standing guard as usual, reading the flickering data on his wrist console, when he heard a soft sound behind him. He turned instantly, hand reaching for his sidearm. But instead of a threat, he saw the princess standing barefoot in the hallway, holding a small silver sphere in her hand. She smiled mischievously. "Good evening, Sergeant," Marcus frowned. "Your Highness, you're not allowed outside your quarters without escort." "I was bored," she said simply. "Besides, I wanted to see the stars. The walls make me feel like I'm suffocating." "That's not safe," Marcus replied firmly. "There are security zones you shouldn't cross." She tilted her head slightly, her glowing eyes full of mischief. "Then maybe you should escort me." Marcus hesitated. He should have reported her immediately. That was protocol. But something in her voice, something soft and lonely, stopped him. He sighed. "Fine, just for 5 minutes." Lyra smiled brightly, and for the first time, Marcus saw her not as a princess, but as a person, someone trapped in golden walls, longing for a bit of freedom. They walked quietly through the marble corridors until they reached the open balcony that looked over the space station's outer shield. Beyond it, millions of stars glowed against the black sky. Lyra leaned on the railing, her silver hair brushing her shoulders. "Beautiful, isn't it?" she whispered. "Do humans ever get tired of looking at the stars?" "Never," Marcus said quietly. "We used to dream about reaching them. Now that we have, we keep dreaming anyway." She smiled at that. "Dreaming is a rare thing among my people. We are raised to fulfill destiny, not to chase wishes." Marcus looked at her then, and for the first time saw how sad her eyes were behind that graceful smile. For a while they just stood there in silence. No royal guards, no politics, no duty, just two beings staring at the same endless sky. Then she turned to him suddenly. "You're different, Sergeant Hale." "How so?" he asked. "You don't look at me the way others do. They see a crown, you see a person." Marcus didn't answer. He didn't know what to say. He was trained to guard, not to comfort. But her words hit something deep in his chest, something he thought he'd lost long ago. Before he could reply, she laughed softly and stepped closer. "Don't worry, Sergeant. I'll return to my room. But don't tell them I escaped, yes? It will be our little secret." And before he could protest, she turned and walked away, bare feet silent against the polished floor, leaving behind a faint trace of silver light that shimmered in the air. Marcus watched her go, his mind a storm of duty and confusion. He had guarded many things in his life, ships, cargo, even commanders. But this was the first time he felt like he was guarding something fragile, something precious, and he wasn't sure if he was protecting her from the world, or the world from her. And as the night stretched on, he realized something impossible. He was looking forward to her next escape. The next morning, Marcus tried to convince himself that what happened last night was just a small mistake. He told himself he should report it, that it was his duty as a soldier. But every time he looked at the sealed door to the princess's room, he couldn't bring himself to do it. He told himself it was because she hadn't gone far, that there was no danger. But deep inside he knew it was something else, something he didn't want to name. When Lyra appeared at breakfast with her usual calm smile, she didn't mention their late-night meeting. She behaved as if nothing had happened. Yet when their eyes met for just a second, she gave him a small, knowing look. That silent exchange was enough to make Marcus's heartbeat quicken before he looked away. He spent the day trying to focus on his duty, checking security systems, escorting diplomats, and maintaining his usual emotionless routine. But part of his mind kept drifting to her, her soft laugh, her eyes full of stars, the way she had called him different. That night he stood guard again outside her room, determined that if she tried to escape this time, he would stop her. He even locked the extra balcony doors and activated motion sensors. But when the clock struck midnight, the motion sensor lit up anyway. Marcus turned sharply, ready, alert, only to find the balcony door open again, the faint glow of silver footsteps leading away. He sighed deeply. She did it again. Following the faint trail, he found her sitting in the royal garden, surrounded by glowing blue flowers that swayed gently in the artificial breeze. The light reflected softly against her skin, giving her an almost ethereal glow. "You're supposed to be in your quarters, Your Highness," he said firmly as he approached. Lyra looked up at him with a teasing smile. "And you're supposed to stop me, Sergeant Hale. Yet here you are following me again." He frowned, trying to look stern, but her voice carried warmth that melted the seriousness in his chest. "You're making my job difficult," he said. "Maybe your job needs a little difficulty," she replied playfully. "You humans seem so used to following orders. I wonder, do you ever do something just because it feels right?" Marcus hesitated. "Feeling isn't part of duty." "Maybe it should be," she said softly, her gaze drifting to the stars above. "I envy humans sometimes. You fight, you bleed, you dream. My people call that chaos. I call it being alive." Marcus watched her silently. He wanted to tell her she was brave for speaking like that, but he held his tongue. He was still a soldier, and she was still a princess. After a long pause, she turned toward him, her expression gentle. "Tell me, Marcus, why did you become a soldier?" He stared at the ground for a moment before answering. "Because I didn't know how to be anything else. The army gave me purpose. It told me who I was, what to do, when to breathe." Lyra tilted her head. "And now?" "Now?" He looked at her, really looked at her. "Now I'm not sure." Her lips curved into a small smile, but there was sadness in her eyes. Maybe that's the beginning of freedom. They sat in silence after that. The stars above them glimmered. The garden light swayed gently, and for a while, Marcus forgot the difference between duty and desire. When she finally stood up to return to her room, she said something that stayed with him long after she was gone. "You guard me so carefully, Marcus, but tell me, who guards your heart?" He didn't answer. He just watched her walk away, her silver gown brushing the glowing flowers, her footsteps light as a dream. The next few nights followed the same pattern. She escaped. He found her. She laughed. He pretended to be annoyed, but deep down he was always relieved to see her. Sometimes she went to the gardens, sometimes to the observatory deck, where she liked to watch the ships drift through the void. Once he found her sitting in the kitchen, eating a human chocolate bar with a childlike grin. "You shouldn't be here," he had said. You shouldn't be smiling, she had replied, offering him a piece. He didn't take it, but she noticed the corner of his mouth twitch, and that made her laugh again. Each escape brought them closer. With every stolen conversation, Marcus saw more of the real Lyra, not the royal, not the symbol of peace, but the woman trapped inside a cage of expectations. And she saw more of him, not the soldier, not the silent guard, but the man who had buried his emotions to survive. One evening, as they stood watching a human transport ship depart, Lyra asked quietly, "Do you ever wish you could leave too?" Marcus took a long breath. "Sometimes, but I don't think I'd know where to go." She smiled faintly. "Then maybe you should follow the stars instead of orders." He turned to her, his eyes softening. "And what about you, princess? Would you follow them too?" She looked away, her voice barely above a whisper. "If I could." The sadness in her tone made something ache deep inside him. He wanted to tell her she wasn't alone. He wanted to promise her freedom, but he couldn't because he was her guard and she was his duty. Still, when she smiled at him again, gentle and mischievous, like the first night he found her, he felt something shift in his chest. It was small, fragile and dangerous, but it was real. And as she whispered, "Good night, Marcus," before slipping back into her chamber, he finally admitted the truth to himself. He wasn't just guarding the alien princess anymore. He was falling for her. Days passed like drifting comets, each one blending into the next. Marcus Hale noticed something subtle about Princess Lyra that no one else seemed to see. Her laughter, though musical, often carried a tinge of sorrow. Her eyes glimmered with light, but sometimes, when she thought no one was watching, they dimmed. The more he watched her, the more he realized that the princess everyone revered as a symbol of peace was, in truth, a prisoner of expectations. Her smile was beautiful, yes, but it carried a weight that no crown should bear. One night, as the twin moons of the Varelian system bathed the balcony in soft blue light, Marcus found her sitting alone, knees drawn to her chest, staring out into the vast emptiness of space. "You came again," she said softly, almost without looking at him. "I always find you," Marcus replied, his voice steady, though a part of him quivered. She let out a small laugh, one that sounded fragile against the hum of the station. "And yet, I keep escaping. Maybe I want to be found." Marcus frowned. "Why do you keep leaving your room, princess?" "It's dangerous." Her eyes finally met his, glimmering with a mix of defiance and sorrow. "Do you know what it feels like to be trapped, Marcus? To be told that everything you are, every thought, every step, belongs not to you but to someone else?" He remained silent, feeling a strange tightness in his chest. He had never seen anyone so vulnerable and brave at the same time. "They say I am a bridge," she continued, her voice trembling slightly, "a bridge between our species. But no one asks if I want to be that bridge. I am supposed to smile, bow, and live my life according to rules written before I was even born. My destiny was chosen before I even knew what freedom meant." Marcus took a slow step closer. "You're not a prisoner, Lyra, you're a person. That matters more than any crown." She shook her head, brushing a strand of silver hair behind her ear. "It matters to you, perhaps. But to them? No, to them I am duty, ceremony, diplomacy. I am a symbol they can control." For a long moment they stood in silence, the only sounds the soft hum of the station and the quiet rustling of her gown in the breeze. Marcus wanted to say something to ease her pain, but no words seemed adequate. Finally she spoke again, quieter this time. "When I'm with you, Marcus, I can pretend to be just me. Not a princess, not a bridge, not a symbol. Just Lyra." He felt his heart tighten. She was trusting him, letting him into a world no one else could touch. "Then I'll stay with you," he said softly. "As long as you want." Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears, but her lips curved into a small, genuine smile, the first one that wasn't tinged with sadness or politics. They stayed on the balcony for hours that night. Marcus told her about the worlds he had fought on, the comrades he had lost, the nights he had spent staring at the stars, wishing for something more. Lyra listened, her hand lightly brushing his arm once, just enough to remind him she was real, human in her own way, though alien in appearance. "You humans are strange," she said finally, laughing softly. "You fight wars, destroy planets, yet you still hold on to hope. You still fight for what you love." Marcus looked at her, surprised. "And what about you? What do you fight for?" Lyra hesitated, her gaze dropping to her hands. I fight to be free in a world that doesn't let me choose. I fight to see a life beyond this crown. I fight to be myself. The words hung in the air like fragile glass, beautiful yet dangerous. Marcus wanted to take her hands in his and promise that he would help her, that she wouldn't have to fight alone. But he was a soldier, and the rules of duty weighed heavily on him. Still, his heart betrayed him. I'll help you, he whispered finally, the words trembling, untrained but honest. Even if it's just to feel free for a little while. I'll be here. Lyra looked up, eyes glimmering in the moonlight, and for the first time her smile reached her eyes fully. You are different, Marcus Hale, she said softly. Most people guard me, but you see me? He felt warmth spread through him, a strange new kind of courage. I don't guard you because of orders, he said. I guard you because I care. Her laugh was soft, but it carried the weight of relief, of trust, of emotions she had never allowed anyone to see. Care, she repeated, a hint of wonder in her voice. That is rare. For a long time they sat together, words fading, only the sound of their breathing and the distant hum of the station around them. In that quiet moment, Marcus realized something important. He wasn't just her guard. She had become a part of his world, a bright light in the darkness he had long accepted. And in the way she looked at him, he saw something fragile and precious, something worth protecting, even if it meant breaking all the rules he had ever lived by. The night ended, but the connection between them remained unbroken, a silent promise that neither orders nor distance could undo. As Lyra returned to her room, she glanced back once, smiling softly. Marcus knew then that he would follow her, not as a soldier, but as someone who had finally found a reason to fight beyond duty. He didn't yet know what dangers lay ahead, or how much his heart would be tested, but he knew one thing for certain. He would never let her face the world alone. The calm of the station shattered without warning. Alarms blared, red lights flashed, and the hum of the energy shields turned into a low, threatening roar. Marcus Hale snapped to attention instantly. Years of combat had trained him for chaos, but nothing prepared him for the sight that awaited him. A rebel fleet, angry at the alliance treaty between humans and Varelians, had attacked the capital station. Ships tore through the protective shields, lasers slicing through the air. Explosions rocked corridors, and the very floor trembled beneath Marcus's boots. Princess Lyra, Marcus shouted into his communicator, sprinting through the smoke-filled hallways. Every second counted, every breath was precious. The station's security teams were overwhelmed. Civilians screamed. Crews ran blindly in panic. When Marcus finally reached her quarters, he found her not hiding, not panicking, but helping others. Her small hands moved quickly, directing wounded crew members to safety. Her calm, determined eyes met his for a moment, and he felt a rush of fear and pride all at once. Lyra, we need to go. Now, he shouted, grabbing her arm. She shook her head, refusing to move. I can't leave them, Marcus. They need help. He felt a surge of frustration and awe. She wasn't the delicate princess everyone thought she was. She was brave, stubborn, and alive, more alive than anyone had given her credit for. I'll stay with you, Marcus said firmly. Through this fire, I'll protect you. But we move together. Her gaze softened, a silent thank you passing between them. Together they wove through the chaos. Smoke stung their eyes, sparks danced around them, and debris rained from the ceiling. Marcus's instincts guided them, his weapon clearing paths, his body shielding hers when falling panels threatened to crush them. At one point, a massive explosion threw them both to the ground. Marcus felt pain rip through his shoulder, but he ignored it. He couldn't let anything happen to her, not when she had finally begun to trust him, not when she had finally allowed herself to be herself. Marcus. Lyra cried out as a secondary blast sent glass shards flying. Without hesitation, he threw himself over her, absorbing the shards against his armor. A sharp pain shot through him, but all he could focus on was the safety of her. Finally, they reached the observation deck. From here, the chaos of battle stretched across the horizon, ships on fire, alarms screaming, crew members fleeing. Marcus turned to her, his chest heaving. You have to stay behind me, he said, his voice rough but commanding. Lyra's glowing eyes met his. And if I don't? Then we fight, he said simply. Together. For the first time, she hesitated. Then with a soft nod, she stepped behind him. She trusted him completely, and that trust burned fiercely inside him. The rebel soldiers boarding the station were disciplined, but they hadn't counted on Marcus Hale. He fought with precision, guiding Lyra behind cover, returning fire with controlled bursts. Her hands shook slightly, but she didn't panic. She followed his lead, listening, learning, surviving. During a brief pause, Marcus looked at her. The silver glow of her hair was streaked with soot. Her gown was torn, revealing the marks of shrapnel and dust. Yet she still held herself like the princess everyone expected. But Marcus saw the person underneath. The girl who had smiled at him under the stars, who had whispered about freedom, who had trusted him with her heart. "Are you hurt?" she asked softly. "I'm fine," he replied, though every muscle in his body screamed otherwise. "You're my responsibility, remember?" Her smile was faint but genuine. "And you are mine, Marcus." Somehow. They moved forward again, clearing rooms, rescuing injured personnel, until finally they reached the main hangar. Their path to the escape pods was blocked by heavily armed rebels. Marcus assessed the situation quickly. There was no time to call for backup. Every second counted. "Listen to me, Lyra," he said, crouching beside her. "When I say run, you run. You don't look back. You trust me to follow." Her hands trembled slightly as she nodded. "I trust you." And in that moment, Marcus realized that trust was worth more than any medal, any rank, any order. He would give his life to protect her, not because of duty, but because she mattered. The first wave of enemies charged. Marcus met them head-on, his weapon blazing, shields braced. Lyra followed, moving with careful precision, guided by him. Together they became a single force, human and Varelian, fighting as one. Finally, they reached the escape pods. Marcus helped her inside, his hands lingering just a second longer than necessary. She looked at him, glowing eyes full of gratitude and something else. Something fragile, tender, and unspoken. "Go," he said firmly. "I'll cover you." Lyra hesitated, her voice soft. "Marcus, later," he said. "Now!" She entered the pod, sealed the door, and launched into space, leaving Marcus behind. He fought his way back through the chaos, knowing reinforcements would arrive soon. But the thought of her safety consumed him. As the battle raged around him, Marcus felt a strange warmth amidst the fear and fire. The princess wasn't just royalty. She was alive. She was human in ways that mattered. And he had proven something, to himself, to her, to the universe, that even one human standing against impossible odds could protect what mattered most. For the first time in years, Marcus felt more than duty. He felt purpose. He felt hope, and he vowed silently as the station shook and fire raged, that he would follow her into the stars if it meant keeping her safe. Because Lyra wasn't just a princess. She was everything he had ever fought to protect. The rebel forces had taken control of the station's central hub, and the corridors that Marcus had once fought through with precision were now a chaotic labyrinth of fire, smoke, and panic. Every door he opened seemed to hide another enemy. Every shadow held the possibility of danger. Yet despite it all, his mind was focused on one person, Princess Lyra. He had tracked the movement of the escape pods, watched her lift off, and for a moment, the sight of her leaving had brought relief. But intelligence reports confirmed a grim truth. The rebels had managed to capture her ship during the launch. Now she was in their hands. Marcus gritted his teeth, running through the smoke-filled hallways, his uniform torn, armor scorched. He didn't care about medals, orders, or even his own life. All he wanted was to make sure she came back alive. Every step he took, every enemy he faced, every burning panel and falling beam was a step closer to her. When he finally reached the central hub, he found her standing calmly, surrounded by heavily armed rebels. Her silver hair shimmered in the harsh light, but her face was serene, almost resigned. "Marcus," she said softly, her voice trembling just slightly. "I didn't want you to see me like this." He ran to her side, ignoring the fire and debris. "Lyra, we're getting out of here." "I don't care what it takes, we leave together." Her glowing eyes held a depth of sadness that made his chest ache. "You don't understand," she whispered. "I have to do this. If I go willingly, the rebels will spare the station, the civilians, everyone. But if I resist, they will destroy everything." Marcus felt his hands clench into fists. "I don't care about the station. I care about you. Nothing else matters." Lyra looked away, her shoulders trembling. "I've been trained to be a symbol, Marcus, not a person. but I can save them, all of them, if I make the right choice. I have to surrender myself." He took her hands in his, holding them tightly. "No, don't do that. We'll fight together. You're not alone, Lyra. I'm here. I've always been here, and I will never leave you." Her eyes glistened with tears, and for the first time Marcus saw fear, not for her life, but for the impossible burden she bore. "You don't understand," she whispered again. "This is bigger than us. This is bigger than love or duty. If I don't go with them willingly, they will destroy everything you've fought to protect. My surrender. It's the only way." Marcus's voice was low but fierce. "Then I'll fight alongside you. I've never backed down before, and I won't start now. You are not a symbol, you are Lyra, and you are alive. And I will protect you with everything I have." For a long moment they stood like that, two hearts beating fiercely in a world of chaos. Around them the rebels advanced, weapons raised, but the connection between them made the air feel still. Finally, Lyra shook her head slowly. "Marcus, some battles cannot be won with guns or courage alone. This is one of them. I have to make the choice no one else can. I have to go." He felt his throat tighten and his chest constrict. He had never wanted anything so badly. And now the only way to protect everyone was to let her go. The thought of her being in danger without him was unbearable, yet he understood the necessity of her decision. Then I'll let you go," he whispered, his voice breaking. "But promise me you'll survive. Promise me you'll come back." She nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks, shimmering like starlight on her pale skin. "I promise, Marcus. I'll survive. I'll see this through. And one day, I'll come back to you." He watched as she stepped forward, surrounded by rebels, her posture regal yet human, brave yet vulnerable. The doors of the transport opened and she was led inside. Marcus wanted to run after her, to grab her and refuse to let her go, but he stayed rooted to the spot, forcing himself to trust her. As the ship lifted off, he shouted into the chaos, "Lyra! I'm waiting for you!" The words seemed to hang in the air, swallowed by the roar of explosions and laser fire. He turned, fighting his way back through the corridors, guiding remaining crew members to safety, keeping the station from total destruction. Every step he took carried her memory, her presence, her trust in him. Hours later, when the battle ended and the station fell silent, Marcus stood on the observation deck, staring at the stars. The ship that carried Lyra was far away, invisible in the vast blackness of space. He felt the emptiness of distance, the ache of separation, but also the warmth of hope. She had made the hardest choice, and he had promised to wait for her. He closed his eyes, imagining her face, her silver hair catching the light of distant stars, her glowing eyes reflecting trust and courage. In that moment, Marcus realized something profound. Sometimes love meant letting go, even when every instinct told you to hold on. Sometimes bravery was not in fighting the enemy, but in trusting the person you loved to survive against impossible odds. And Marcus Hale knew he would wait. He would wait through stars, wars, and the passage of time itself. He would wait for Lyra because she was not just a princess, not just a symbol, she was everything that mattered. The night stretched on, the station quiet for the first time in days, and Marcus's heart burned with determination. No matter what happened, no matter how far she was taken, he would find her again. Because their story was not over. It had only just begun. Days passed slowly aboard the human outpost. The chaos of the battle had faded, but the memory of Lyra's silver hair and glowing eyes haunted Marcus Hale. Every corridor, every empty hall, every quiet night reminded him that she was gone. Not lost exactly, but taken by forces beyond his reach. Marcus went through the motions of duty. He checked security logs, coordinated with diplomats, and trained new recruits. On the outside, he appeared steady, unshaken. But inside, the weight of emptiness pressed on his chest like a physical force. He had kept his promise, the one he had whispered as her ship lifted off. He had waited, every day, every night, hoping for news, hoping for her voice, hoping that somehow she was safe. And then, one quiet evening, a transmission arrived. Its signal was weak, encrypted with her royal seal, but unmistakably hers. Marcus's hands trembled as he activated it, fear and hope warring within him. The screen flickered, showing Lyra's face, her hair slightly darker from travel, her skin dusted with space ash, her eyes still glowing with that familiar blue light. But it was her smile that struck him hardest, soft, warm, full of the emotion she had always tried to hide. Marcus. Her voice quivered slightly, carrying across the void. If you are seeing this, then I am far from the station, safe for now. I wanted to speak to you before I disappear again. He leaned forward, gripping the edge of the console, his heart pounding. Lyra, where are you? I cannot say. Not yet, she admitted. The rebels are gone, but their reach extends further than you know. They cannot find me, not for now. But I needed you to know something. Something I should have said before everything went wrong. Marcus swallowed hard, urging her to continue. I didn't escape to annoy you, or to test your patience, or to flirt. I escaped because I wanted to feel alive, she said, her voice soft and honest. I wanted to breathe outside the walls of duty, outside the golden cage of expectations. And Marcus, you reminded me what it means to be human, or perhaps what it means to be truly alive. You saw me, not my crown, not my role, but me. And for that, I will never forget you. A lump rose in Marcus's throat. He wanted to speak, to tell her how he felt, but words failed him. Instead, he let her voice carry over him, filling the empty spaces in his heart. You showed me that even a single human can make a difference, that even one person's courage can inspire hope, Lyra continued. I cannot return yet. There is much to do, much to protect, much to survive. But know this, Marcus Hale, you are the reason I still hope. You are the reason I still fight. Her eyes glimmered on the screen, and for a moment Marcus felt as if she were right there beside him. Lyra, She smiled, a mixture of warmth and sadness, and gently shook her head. No, Marcus. Don't speak. Just listen. Hold on to the stars, hold on to the hope, and wait. Wait for me. I will return. One day, I promise. Until then, guard your heart, not me. The transmission ended before he could respond. The screen went dark, leaving him staring into the empty console, yet somehow feeling her presence more vividly than ever. Marcus sank into his chair, closing his eyes, letting her words sink in. She had survived. She had thought of him. She had trusted him enough to leave a message that was not only a goodbye but a promise. He stood and walked to the balcony, the same balcony where they had first met under the twin moons. The stars stretched infinitely before him, twinkling like silver sparks. He remembered her laughter, her mischievous eyes. The way she had always challenged him, questioned him, made him feel alive again. He allowed himself a rare smile, small but genuine. I'll guard the stars, Lyra, he whispered. I'll wait for you. No matter how long it takes, no matter the danger, I'll be here. And in that moment, Marcus understood something fundamental about humanity and about himself. Even in a universe filled with alien species, wars, and chaos, humans had one strength that no technology, no alien army, and no rule could ever take away: the ability to care, to hope, and to fight for what mattered most. Even when it seemed impossible, he was a human, yes, a soldier. But more than that, he was capable of love, courage, and unwavering loyalty. For the first time in years, he felt whole. The stars stretched on endlessly before him, and in their vastness Marcus could feel Lyra's presence, her spirit reaching across light years, reminding him that even a single human could be enough to change the world. He didn't know when or how she would return. He didn't know what dangers still awaited her. But he knew one truth, crystal clear, shining brighter than any star. She had changed him, and he would wait for her, forever if necessary. And in that waiting, he found something he had lost long ago in the battles, the losses, the endless duty of survival. He found hope. He found purpose. He found the courage to believe that even across the vast void of space, even against impossible odds, love, loyalty, and the human spirit could endure and triumph. And Marcus Hale smiled, staring into the infinite black sky, knowing that somewhere out there, Princess Lyra Varelia was alive, free, and thinking of him too, and that was enough.